This is the IDP After Show.
And welcome to the IDP After Show. I am one of your co-hosts this evening, Jake Kohlhagen, alongside the Boo Bam, also more affectionately known as Jeff to me. Welcome in to everybody. We do not have Evan tonight, but you know what? I think we're still going to do it right and make this really fun for you. With that, I think we're just going to jump right into it. Tonight, we have the Keep, Trade, Cut Rookie Dynasty Edition. So what Jeff did for us is he pulled in all of the top rookies for each position. So defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, and everyone right around him in terms of that dynasty value. And we were looking at some of the drafts we've had going on this offseason so far to gather this information and put it all together. And what we want to do is, again, talk through that keep, trade, cut. So who we keeping on that roster because we foresee strong, early value or long-term value or both. Who are we trading because we want to maximize the value of them, whether that's name or potentially even just overall value. And then who are we cutting because, out of these guys, we just don't have a place for them on our team anymore. We just don't see the value comparably to the other ones here. I think in some situations, obviously, we'd love to keep everyone, but this is helping us make some of those hard decisions. So with that said, I think we're going to jump right into it, starting with defensive line. Jeff, take us away.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. One thing with this too is this is kind of like if it's a dynasty startup and you're looking at all three of these players right at the same time, who's your target? Who's your guy you want to draft to kind of build your team around? And so we're gonna start off with defensive linemen. And to sneak Will Anderson in there, we started with Joey Bosa at ADP 11, Quinnen Williams at ADP 12, and Will Anderson Jr. at ADP 13. And so we're gonna start with Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa is kind of like the Matt Ryan of IDP. There was kind of a joke a few years ago with Matt Ryan. Every even year, he would just kind of go off. And if it's an odd year, you didn't draft Matt Ryan. Joey Bosa is kind of like in the same boat. Joey Bosa will be 28 by the time the season starts. He's played 8 NFL seasons. 3 of those seasons, he's had 800 plus snaps. Every odd year, 2017, 2019, and 2021 have been his banner years. So if you're into that kind of thing, 2023 is probably a year for you. But there might be some pause there for some of you. So looking at Joey Bosa's stats, 2017, he had 40 tackles with 13 and a half sacks. 2019, he was looking at 50 tackles and 12 and a half sacks. And in 2021, he had 31 tackles and 10 and a half sacks. So he is definitely a big splash play, one of the top targets year in and year out. But I think a lot of that has to do with his name. Unfortunately, in 5 of those 8 seasons he's played less than 16 games. So you have that to kind of go with as well. So, Jake, what are your thoughts on Joey Bosa?
So, yeah, I love where you got, right? Number one for me was availability, like you hit on, right? He's only got those 3 seasons over 800 snaps. All of the other ones are under, 570 snaps total. Now, the fun thing is he's still very elite as he's proven at times, because even some of those lower total seasons in terms of snaps, he still managed to produce some high sack numbers. For me, though, really, it's his career pass rush pressure percentage. Wow, a lot of P's there.
Easy for you to say.
Right, 14.9% career set there or mark for him. That's what really gives me a lot of hope about him long term, even if availability is still kind of meh. And when you look at his lowest PFF pass rush grade of 70.8, and then 81.9 past that, and then 84.2, the other 5 seasons, 90 plus. Clearly, he is elite and he's able to deliver in some form or fashion. You talked about some of the tackle numbers, a little bit above average in terms of tackle efficiency for defensive linemen. And then, he's in a situation where it's him and Mac. And Max put up some respectable production here, kind of on the tail end of his career as well. So an interesting situation to work with not a high level of talent around that group, but, enough that, he's not the only guy there working through that. So with that said, looking at the other guy, Quinnen Williams, number 12 in the ADP, coming off a career year, going into the contract year. So if you kind of like those narrative-y type things, you have that going for him. A 9.54% pass rush pressure rate this last year. That's a really great number for defensive tackles. And if you're in a defensive tackle required league, that stands out for you. But here we're talking just pure defensive linemen. So likely on your sleeper formats or maybe some of those combo type format leagues. But that number is not amazing in terms of some of your overall or your elite defensive linemen where you'd be drafting this guy. 6.8% tackle efficiency, again, slightly above average. And now you're looking at his best pass rush grade in PFF in his 4-year career was this last year at 84.1, which would have put him at, Joey Bosa's third worst pass rush grade. And then, it teeters off in the years before that, 77, 70, 57. So, but with Williams, though, they've built up a strong supporting cast around that defensive line. So is this a situation we see with, like the Eagles and the Redskins, where I always like to say a rising tide raises all boats. So all this talent is going to make everyone's production just a little bit better. So that's what I got for Quinnen Williams. What are you looking at?
You hit a lot of things that I was going to get over too. The defensive interior position eligibility is huge. He's got going into his second year with Robert Saleh as the head coach, who really coached up the San Francisco defense, who made them like what they are today. And I think finally getting some of the pieces there are going to make them kind of an upper talented team. They got guys in the secondary, Sauce Gardner, who's going to be able to lock down receivers, who allows the defensive linemen to get a little more time to get to the quarterback. Quinnen Williams had 13 sacks last season. So I think on his 690 snaps. So that's, even if he increases his snap total just slightly, I think he's going to have that same proficiency and that efficiency there. So I think the sky's the limit for him. The other thing I like about him too is I think the Jets are going to have a lot more positive game script. They're going to be leading later in games. Hopefully, maybe with Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback for them, they might have some more leads later in games, forcing the other teams to throw the ball a little bit more at the end of the game, providing a little more opportunity for Williams and the other defensive linemen to get some tackles and sacks. So instead of just running the ball out with Zach Wilson in the third and fourth quarter. So that brings us to the rookie, Will Anderson Jr., who was drafted by the Houston Texans. Obviously, we don't have any NFL snaps on him at all, but his college tape, his college scoring is elite. He is elite defensive player. He's elite pass rusher. He's elite rush defender. A little light in the tackling, which is kind of surprising for a player of his caliber. The one nice thing about him is he's got that dual eligibility with defensive end and linebacker on sleeper right now. So if you're drafting him, probably going to use him as your defensive end position, which he probably will play more of in the NFL. He did have 37 sacks in college, which is pretty amazing for a college player, when they're only playing 12, 14 games a season versus the NFL's now, more rigorous schedule. So Jake, what do you got for Mr. Will Anderson Jr.?
So, we don't have the NFL stuff, but what we do have is we have the fact that Houston traded a crap ton of draft capital, and I'm saying that as a Houston Texans fan, to go up and get this guy and presumably make him a cornerstone of this franchise. So I see a lot of, what Aiden Hutchinson's path looked like last year. He's going to be high volume. He is a playmaker, and he's going to find a way to make splashy plays. He's probably going to be a little more boom bust this year one. But he's got a strong defensive-oriented coaching staff that's just in place for the first year. They're really trying to build out this team around him and CJ Stroud. So with that said, I think he's kind of a lock to be in place for many years and many snaps. So I know you hit all the other strong metrics and college production for him for that as well. So with that said, that leads us to the ultimate decision, right? Who are we keeping? Who are we trading? Who are we cutting? So for me, going down that KTC line, I'm keeping Will Anderson Jr. I love the upside and I love the youth. I'm trading Joey Bosa based, on the fact that he's produced large numbers seasons before and on that namesake, and heck, even maybe thanks to his brother a little bit, right? And Nick Bosa, that bloodline is going to make him a very tradable asset. And I'm cutting Quinnen Williams. He's in a DT required league. This might look a little different, but straight DL. I love me some D tackle on my team, but here I got to cut him. So where do you land on these guys?
Similar. I'm actually going to keep Will Anderson Jr. I think the upside is there. The youth. We're looking at a player who's 3 or 4 years younger than the next closest guy on this list. Like you said, the Houston Texans almost pulled a draft day trade to trade back up want all my picks back, and so they got him back. And I think, like you said, he's going to be a cornerstone of that defense for years to come. So he's definitely my keep. I'm actually going to trade Quinnen Williams. I think he's got a very high safe floor. Last year he was 11th in scoring at the defensive end position or defensive line position in sleeper format. So I think he's got a high floor, and I'm going to cut Bosa just for the fact that he's the oldest of the crew. He's injury riddled. I mean, it's time to head out to pasture, dude. And I say that as a Badger fan, having to watch him play many games from Ohio State when they played the Badgers. So I'm happy to see him go.
I love it.
This was the IDP After Show.